everyone, and welcome to Collider Movie Talk for movie fans. I'm your host, Natasha Martinez, and this is the daily show where we give you all the latest news in the world of movies, plus some insight into what it all means. Joining us on this very exciting day is John Campea.
Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, coming to you from right here at the Collider Video Studios here in Burbank, California, and we're all here to celebrate not just the presence of John Hillcoat on the show, but celebrating Rafael dos Anjos faking his foot injury to avoiding Conor McGregor. We all know it.
Also joining us, Jon Schnepp.
I don't know what he's talking about. It must be something to do with sports, so whatever. But I'm super happy that Mr. Hillcoat is here with us.
And also joining us, Mark Ellis.
And I got the newest villain for Mr. Hillcoat's movie. This is an actual Jamaican crocodile that was right next to my family when they vacationed there. Look at that thing. Look at that thing. Wow.
And of course, our very special guest, director John Hillcoat.
Yay!
Woo!
Director of...
I wish I could speak like you. That's Speed. I'll try and give the answers.
You sound
like
way
that.
cooler than I do. Anyway, I was pointing out, he's good because he's from... Well, he grew up partially for a good part of his life in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. My hometown for anybody. So all you guys watching from the Hammer.
We did our time, hard time.
Yes, we did talk about
and
the
you
high
both
schools.
escaped and got to someplace better.
Hey, listen, we're going to talk a little bit about a little film opening this week called 999 a little bit. But first, we've got some movie news items to get to. So, Natasha, what is up?
Thanks to a report from Entertainment Weekly, Warner Brothers and DC Films have officially announced that Justice League Part 1 is a go, with production slated to start on April 11th. Meanwhile, showing that he is indeed still hard at work on the project, Zack Snyder tweeted out a picture of him and Aquaman star Jason Momoa posing behind the scenes in front of a number of costumes from the film. Justice League Part 1 will star Ben Affleck, Henry Cavill, Gal Gadot, Ezra Miller, Jason Momoa, and Ray Fisher, with Part 1 coming to theaters November 17th, 2017. John, what do you think of the news that Justice League has a production start date?
Damage control. No, I think, look, this is good. We've had the release dates, all that kind of stuff. I am on record. I believe this movie is going to be great. I think it's going to be a huge success. Do I have some minor concerns about it? Sure, we have minor concerns about every movie we go into. I have some minor concerns about, first of all, Batman v Superman. I think it's going to be wonderful, though. However, that being said, with them coming out announcing that we've already known they've had release dates forever. Mm-hmm. Them coming out now and announcing, and we're starting shooting in April. That's great. That is great. But let's just keep this in mind. We have heard movies say that they have shooting dates set and fall apart. We have heard comic book movies say they have a shoot date and a release date and it fall apart. We have recently heard, we can talk about those films, of comic book sequels that are already in the plans. They've got a release date and they're going to start shooting and those fall apart. Look, Batman v Superman is going to be great and it's going to do huge business and everything will move ahead according to plan. But I'm not any extra enthused or extra settled just because Warner Brothers at this point is saying, hey, we've got a shoot date, because we've heard it before and seen it fall apart. I have no doubt it's going to start on time. I have no doubt it's going to be good. But this doesn't really do anything for me one way or the other. Anyway, Schnepp, what do you think about this?
Well, it's weird. Like, when I saw that picture last night, I immediately thought about my own film, The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened, because it got shut down 3 weeks before it was supposed to shoot, and that photo looks like...
Not The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened,
no.
but rather...
My film is out, and you can buy it on my website, blah, 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 pimpity, pimpity, pimp. But, no, I mean, the film itself got shut down 3 weeks before they were going to shoot, and they had sets, they had costumes, and there was kind of that kind of look is very, it's all throughout the film. But that's one of the things that happens when throughout every single movie there's this, once they've got a release date and they've got all this pre-production art, they're designing sets, the actors are cast, they've got the costumes made. So when a lot of those rumors dropped like 2 weeks ago where Warner Brothers is nervous and this and that, they're thinking about firing Zack Snyder, I was like, I did not believe it for 1 second, because I didn't know what date they were going to be shooting this film, but I knew they were in heavy pre-production, and to stop that kind of giant monster, that this thing is like $100, $200, $300 million mega creature that's already locked down 2 dates in the future and has already got this, and they got Ben Affleck and they got everybody, they've got to have their script completely tight. It looks like they're all having a blast. They're ready to, like, I don't know what they're talking about. We're partying, ready to put these weird suits on. You see Flash in the background. Yep. You see, it's really cool.
By the way, hey, can we bring up that picture again of Zack Snyder just for a second? This little thing is, if you look right behind Zack, see that black suit that's in the front behind Zack? That V in the front, you paint that V blue, you got Nightwing, son.
Right. Or you
So,
paint
I
it
mean,
red,
who
you got
knows?
Batman Beyond.
Yeah, I mean, so
there's-
you got a lot of different things. Now, Mark, let me get to you in a second because I really don't care what you have to say. But John,
Back to you, John.
but John, I was wondering, have you ever had a film project you were either involved with that everything was moving along and then it got cut short, or it came close to getting cut short even once you were in that process of getting the movie going?
Absolutely, but a smaller scale film we're talking. In Australia, the proposition, we were in full pre-production and up in Queensland.
Amazing film, by the way.
And the whole thing fell apart.
Really?
Yeah.
Was it
I mean, it's independent films that work differently. It's like a house of cards, in terms of the structure, and one card drops out and the whole, because it's all pieces of different money.
Question, did you have to rearrange your cast? Was it like...
We did.
Yeah, wow, okay.
We actually lucked out by getting the perfect cast.
Yes.
Yeah, you ended up with a pretty damn good
Ray
cast.
Winston. They didn't want
Amazing.
Ray Winston
Really?
in there.
Are you serious? Really?
Can you tell us who they were, who was possibly
Who
gonna
were
play it?
they? Can we have their addresses? 'Cause who doesn't want Ray?
Well, they thought the financiers thought Ray couldn't be vulnerable.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Because he's a brood of a man, but
Yeah.
that's also what makes that character work. And of course, Ray's got a huge emotional range.
Definitely.
Yeah. I love him doing the voice of Beowulf in
Yes,
that.
he was
And you
fantastic
can really
as
hear
Beowulf.
that. Anyway, Mark, what do you think about this whole Justice League thing?
Look, I'm just excited that somebody's happy to take a picture with Aquaman. Like, who would have thought 5 years ago? You never wanted a picture with Aquaman. Now that Jason Momoa is playing him, Zack Snyder's a pretty big dude. He looks like a little kid asking Babe Ruth to hit a home run in this picture. Aquaman's going to kick ass. And yes, this movie's definitely going to get made. It was never in danger of being shut down, at least in my humble opinion. I will say that Batman v Superman may not be great. It may not be great. Let's all take a breath and realize it may just be good or even average, but it's hard for me to believe the movie's going to be bad enough to where they'd be like, no, we got to pull the plug on everything. I can't imagine that scenario, and so I think that's why it's smart that they go ahead and announce, look, we're not saying that we're issuing this in Entertainment Weekly in response to any reports that might have come out last week. We're just telling y'all, we're making a movie come April, and we're really excited about it. I think it's awesome.
Let me talk for a second about that report, because I wasn't on when that report came out. Here's the thing, and all of you guys know it came from Drew McWeeny from over at HitFix. I'll say this about that report. I can tell you 100% for absolute certainty, Drew McWeeny does not lie when in his profession. He does not do it. If Drew McWeeny says he got told something, you can take it to the bank 100% that he got told that. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean we should trust the people that are telling him things. That's two different, those are horses of two different colors right there. Those are two totally separate issues. Look, Drew is right 95% of the time. He's got a really good track record. But I can say this: I never did believe that report. I never believed that this movie or this franchise or this new series was ever in any trouble. But I do believe 100% that McWeeny was told that, and I've just been seeing a lot of people online attacking the messenger and going after McWeeny and say, "Oh, you're full of BS." I know Drew McWeeny is not full of BS at all, but that doesn't mean he's being fed good information.
I agree 100%. And also, there's even within the camps of any production company, there's people who are like, well, I heard this and I heard that, and they're constantly power shuffling themselves to get word out, either positive or negative. So you never know really what's up until you actually see the film in the theater. That's the final result, you know.
I look forward to next week on Movie Talk when the Justice League has been pulled. We're just like, sorry,
Drew. All right, what's next?
Aside from all the Spider-Man questions concerning his appearance in Captain America: Civil War, another big question has been the identity of Martin Freeman's character and who he might be from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Thanks to a report from Empire Magazine, we now have the answer. In their upcoming issue, it has been revealed that Freeman will play Everett Ross, a character that will be very familiar to fans of the Black Panther comic series. In Civil War, Freeman's Ross will be part of the Joint Counter-Terrorist Center, working alongside Emily Van Camp's Agent 13. Mark, are you excited about Martin Freeman's character in Civil War?
I certainly am, man. If you could cram one more guy into this bar, which already is way beyond fire code, that is Civil War, you want it to be Martin Freeman. That guy's an amazing actor. He can do pretty much anything. And seeing him as Everett Ross is something that I'm looking forward to, because I didn't know that much about the character. I never read the Black Panther comic book, but apparently his character is based loosely on Chandler Bing from Friends. So if we can could I be more excited to see Martin Freeman in Civil War? I think it's a great play.
I want to see him played just like Bilbo Baggins. I want to see him totally played straight Bilbo Baggins the whole time. I want him to be 3 feet tall the whole bit. I am not excited about this. I'm not, nor am I turned off by it. I was excited. You had me right at the moment that you said Martin Freeman was going to be in this movie. As soon as you said that, I'm fine. I almost don't care who he's going to play. Now, if you were to say, oh, he's the new Captain America, whatever, maybe that would be something to talk about. I almost didn't really care what character you said he was going to be. It's all about how the character is going to be used. So it's cool and everything. But Schnepp, you have actually directed this character before in your professional career.
Unbeknownst to myself, I directed the animated Black Panther series that was done in 2010, and that picture that you see in the little corner there, I didn't even know they had grabbed that because I was like, Wikipedia is like,
that's from your show.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, and he was actually, the character was played by the producer of the animated series, because they were like, oh, it's a like 3-liner, and so 3 or 4 lines he had or something like that. But that's played by David Bush. What's up, everybody? And yeah, so Everett Ross is like, he's a pal of the Black Panther, and I guess I directed him.
But if he's playing that character, does that lend more credibility to the theory that Black Panther is going to be in this movie a lot and have a huge presence, whereas Spider-Man is just going to be sitting backstage waiting like, all right, when do I get my 5 minutes?
Oh, no, I think you're totally right. I think it does play to the fact that we're going to see, I think Black Panther is going to be not just importance-wise, but time-wise. I think he's going to get probably as much screen time as, say, an Iron Man. Mm-hmm. I think after Captain America and Tony, I think probably Black Panther is going to have the 3rd most screen time in this entire film. Anyway, have you been looking forward to this new thing, and what do you think about Martin Freeman being in it?
Well, I just read a report about the Black Panther that was released from solitary confinement after 43 years. So I'm a little confused. I'm trying to work this one out.
Different Black Panther. Yeah. I mean, you know what?
Martin Freeman has nothing to do with that one.
Right.
Well, Martin Freeman being in this is also really good news for the Black Panther solo movie. So I think they're starting to build out the Black Panther supporting cast for his individual film too.
Oh yeah, because we've already got Snoke,
Claw,
Snoke,
Andy
Serkis. We've already got Andy Serkis, who's going to be part of that universe now. It looks like
cool.
Martin. Oh, he's great. And then we got Martin Freeman's going to be a part of that. So things are shaping up. I think Marvel's got big plans for Black Panther.
Definitely.
Like big plans for Black Panther. All right, folks, we've reached that part of the show now for buy or sell. Here's how this works. In front of her, Natasha's got a few other items in the world of movie news. She's going to run them down. Then those of us at the table are simply going to say whether we buy it or sell it. So, Natasha, what do we got?
In an exclusive interview with Steve Frosty Weintraub at Collider.com, producer Roy Lee revealed that Stephen King adaptation of It will begin filming this year. He also revealed that the Cary Fukunaga and Chase Palmer script was in fact written by Gary Doberman with help from new director Andy Muschietti. Lee also said that the movie is very close to the source material and that the adaptation will be cut into 2 movies, the first being from the point of view from the kids and the second movie from the point of view of the adults. He also confirmed that both movies will be rated R. Schnepp, do you buy or sell this adaptation of It filming this year as the producer suggests?
I buy it the same time I bought it last year when Cary Fukunaga said exactly the same thing when he was like, I'm writing this as 2 movies. One's going to be that's R-rated. One's going to be about the kids. The second one's going to be about the... So I don't really... I'm just glad that they're still making it, and I'm looking forward to this adaptation. I loved it. I loved Tim Curry as the creepy Pennywise. That clown is forever going to give kids nightmares. I hope that... I'm hoping that they're able to do something new, brand new with a clown. I mean, I can't really imagine what else they can do with a human skin mask of a clown. What are they going to do? Is it going to be a clown with an octopus body? What is it going to be? You know? So I guess we'll have to wait and see.
I'm going to say no.
I'm going to probably won't go that far. Yeah. I'm going to sell this. Not because I don't like the idea of it happening this year. There just seems... There's been a lot of turmoil surrounding this project already, so I don't think it's going to happen, at least go in front of the cameras this year. I do believe it's going to happen, though. This is just too rich of a story. I mean, that original series was so good with Tim in it. This will make a great motion picture experience. The 2 parts are going to be so unique from each other as well. That sets them up in such a way that we haven't really seen done in a lot of other films before. So I think it's going to be great, but I sell the idea that they're actually going to get this in front of the camera this year.
I think that I'm going to buy it because if the question is, are they going to start production by the end of 2016? I think, that's definitely happening. You're not going to see the movie in 2016. It's going to be like a Strangers 2 situation where, it's going to be produced at some point starting this year. We just don't know when that's going to be. Because from the producer's mouth, it sounds like they just didn't vibe with Cary Fukunaga for whatever reason. Because when we read the report of that that director departing the project, it seemed like because he wanted to make it 2 parts and because he wanted to make it rated R, and the studio was like, no, and now it's going to be in 2 parts and it is going to be rated R. Right. So I don't understand what the discrepancy was, but whatever it is, maybe they have the director they want to work with in place now, so it gives me a little bit of hope that we can get this thing rolling pretty soon.
I heard that Cary Fukunaga wanted to use Ray Winstone for Pennywise. I think that turned the producers off a lot. Anyway, John, do you think they're going to get this movie in front of the cameras this year?
I have no idea. If it's part octopus, maybe not. It might take a little bit longer.
Can't believe you went against me, Hillcoat.
Oh no,
that's rough.
You know
but by the way, it might take an extra year, but it might be better.
With the octopus.
Yeah.
You know what they're going to do? They're going to go back to the original storyboards of the Watchmen ending that they changed out and take that creature and put him in.
Amazing.
It might be worth the wait.
Just combine it with Bryan Singer's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. The clown is the squid, is the octopus.
That's right.
Done. Go picture.
Right.
Please
Bring in a Neo. There is no octopus. You know.
All right, what's next?
Continuing his interview with producer Roy Lee, Frosty was able to ask him about the long-in-development Dungeons & Dragons movie and how he was going to bring it to the big screen. Lee's response as to the approach they are taking to the movie is sure to be a very interesting take for fans. He said, "This new Dungeons & Dragons will be a Guardians of the Galaxy tone movie in a Tolkien-like universe. Because when you think of all the Hobbit movies and The Lord of the Rings, they have an earnestness to them. And to see something fun, a Raiders romp inside that world, I feel is something the audience has not seen before." David Leslie Johnson, writer of Orphan, has penned the current version of the script, which Lee believes will get a green light this year. John, buy or sell a new Guardians of the Galaxy type Dungeons & Dragons movie?
Well, in theory, I buy it. I mean, that sounds like intriguing. I'm still, look, I've got my apprehensions about this. I grew up playing D&D a lot. I had a wizard named Zap. Yes, I had a wizard named Zap.
Zap?
No more stupid than the Flash having a villain called Zoom. Come on, give me a break. And I played a lot of D&D, and I still play tabletop role-playing games from time to time. One of the things that really scared me in this report, though, was the producer went on to say that we've been in a lot of consultation with Wizards of the Coast, and that actually scares the hell out of me. What the hell do they know about making movies? Nothing. And when you go back to that great all-time classic motion picture with Jeremy Irons' Dungeons and Dragons, look, that Dungeons and Dragons.
What do you mean? I'm going. Where's my dragon?
Sorry, can't help
Problem
it.
was, that movie was directed by the biggest Dungeons and Dragons fan in the world. I don't care if the filmmakers you get are fans of Dungeons & Dragons, the game. I care if you get good filmmakers attached who can tell a really good story. And when I hear that they're consulting with, like, Wizards of the Coast, like, heavily consulting with them, that makes me worried that they're going in the wrong direction. So I don't know. Obviously, if a Dungeons & Dragons movie comes out tomorrow, I'm lining up with my money, my bag of popcorn, and I'm going to be there the first showing of it. But I'm going to be nervous as hell about it. So I'll buy the concept of a Guardians of the Galaxy style Dungeons and Dragons, but I'm still nervous about it. What about you?
Bring back Thora Birch and Damon Wayans, and that was a stinker.
Make it a
Dungeons
sequel.
and Dragons, yeah. And they actually made 2 more direct-to-video releases of Dungeons and
right, they
Dragons
did,
2 and 3, and they're worse than the first one. It's just you're right. I mean, you're not going to see the Dungeons and Dragons movie to watch people roll up characters and I got a 20. I mean, but I do like the idea of what they're saying is, everyone's saying, well, it's like Guardians of the Galaxy because that's like the new thing to add that little flavor. But when he said Raiders like adventure, that's what got me. I'm like, look, if they that's kind of the whole thing. When you're playing Dungeons and Dragons, you're going on a quest, you're going on an adventure, you're with your friends. You don't want your friends to die, but sometimes they do some stupid shit and they die, So you're like, you got to roll a new character, son. You're not Zap anymore. You're Flimp or whatever. Your Zap's dead, It's like, so that's all I got to say.
There are a lot of things. There are a lot of things that I would love doing with you. I would never let you name any of my role-playing game characters, though. That's one thing I would let you do.
Flimp it is, dude.
Flimp it is.
And if there's any parents out there and you have a newborn that might be a wizard one day, do not name that kid Flimp, Flimplesworth, Flimpton. Do not do
Zap.
it. Learn.
Zap?
You can name it Zap.
Zap
Zap's
with two P's. They make it different. Zap.
I tend to get excited anytime I hear Guardians of the Galaxy tone in anything. Dungeons and Dragons, I'm not really sure it makes that much sense. I didn't grow up playing D&D. Me and my Magic the Gathering cards were busy getting chicks, which is also Wizards of the Coast. So
I don't know which part of that statement is more hilarious.
But, I mean, they're all inaccurate, except for the Magic the Gathering part. Huge fan. I got banned from 2 tournaments because I used an illegal demonic tutor. My bad, Comic Cubicle. So like, when you get back to the movie, the Tolkien universe part of this makes a lot of sense. That's what I always envisioned Dungeons and Dragons to be. I just don't know that there's a lot of room to be cracking jokes when you're on a quest, when you're looking for dragons, or you're worried about being locked in a dungeon. So Guardians of the Galaxy has a great sense of humor, and putting levity in a story like this does make some sense. I'm just not sure how many wisecracks you're going to have when you're going on a quest like this.
Unless they put in an octopus.
Unless there's an
With perhaps a clown face.
I believe that's in the Monster Manual Volume 2.
Right.
I believe the clown face octopus.
I think it's called Flimt.
And
Or
it's
Flimp.
and it's
Flimp.
called Flimp.
Flimps.
You ever play any D&D growing up? Or would you be excited
No,
about a
I
movie
missed
like
that
this?
one. I missed that one. I'm still with the octopus.
I'm still kind of hung up on this octopus
Well, recently, DNA discoveries. Did you read that?
Yeah, alien, yo.
Exactly.
thing. An octopus?
Yeah.
Really?
There's no other life form that has anything like the octopus.
Okay, see, now
True fact.
this whole conversation
True
is like a
fact.
real serious tone
Yeah.
now. Now
So
I'm
we'll talk about it
aliens.
later. We
Curious
can
about
joke
this
about
now.
I
Can't
wanted
joke
to
about
go
this
from
alien
hang
stuff.
on. I wanted to go from Dungeon and Dragons to aliens.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Aliens.
He's trying to guard our
Aliens. He's
galaxy.
making it happen.
There's face huggers swimming all over the place, and we need killer crocodiles from Jamaica to stop them.
Now
Now you're
I
talking.
want. Now, as soon as the
Tell me
show's
it.
over, I'm going to be Googling about octopus and aliens now. Now I'm totally fascinated. All right, what's next?
Empire magazine continues to reveal new bits of information from Captain America Civil War, along with some new images from the movie. Along with a new cover image featuring Cap's shield and Iron Man's helmet, the magazine also debuted our first official look at the villain, Crossbones, played by Frank Grillo. Mark, do you buy or sell these new images from Civil War?
Oh, it's a huge buy. Even if you can't see Frank Grillo's beautiful ass-kicking face, that mask, seeing him as this villain, the full realization of what he was in Captain America the Winter Soldier, that's enough to get me, if I wasn't already sold on this movie totally. It's a great looking cover. We're going to suffer damages on both sides. Maybe each team in this is going to lose a couple members permanently before we get to Infinity War. So huge buy for this kid.
Yeah, Frank Grillo got some injuries during the last Purge, I guess. But no, the cover is beautiful. It's gorgeous. And I prefer the other cover where you had the star with the opposing color schemes with Cap's face and Iron Man's face on the other side. I prefer that one, but this is a really good cover. Grillo looks great. So for me, it's a buy.
Yeah, it's a buy for me. Empire is always like busting out the best magazines with the exclusive photos and the coolest, images. And seeing Crossbones like that, it's you know why Frank Grillo's pissed now. He's like Deadpool. His face is all messed up.
Why is Empire picked so much better than the Entertainment Weekly photo shoots? Like on occasion,
They just got that
Entertainment Weekly
inside
just dro-
agent that's like,
Yeah.
yo, here's those pictures, son. Bam.
Crazy.
What are you, John? You like these images?
Yeah, I like the mask.
The
And
mask
I like
is
the
great.
actor.
Yeah, Frank
He'll-
Grillo's great.
Yeah.
Grillo's really great.
Grillo's
Well,
great.
Well, listen, folks, it is Tuesday, which means it's time for us to talk a little bit about what is opening this week, brought to you by our friends at AMC Theaters. There's a few films opening up today. We're going to talk about one in particular. I wonder why. Natasha, which one are we talking about?
Opening this weekend is 999, directed by John Hillcoat. Scripted by Matt Cook, the story centers on a crew of dirty cops who are blackmailed by the Russian mob to execute a virtually impossible heist. The only way to pull it off is to manufacture a 999, the police code for Officer Down. Their plan is turned upside down when the unsuspecting rookie they set up to die foils the attack, triggering a breakneck, action-packed finale filled with double crosses, greed, and revenge. 999 stars Casey Affleck, Woody Harrelson, Kate Winslet, Chiwetel Ejiofor, Anthony Mackie, Gal Gadot, Norman Reedus, Aaron Paul, Teresa Palmer, and Clifton Collins Jr.
I love Clifton Collins Jr., by the way. I always get excited when I see him pop up and things. John, this was a movie that when the trailer came out a number of months ago, just caught me by surprise. And it instantly hit my top 10 favorite trailers of the year list. I believe it made our list for top 10 trailers
Certainly
of the year.
did.
And it instantly went into my personal top 10 most anticipated films of 2016 as well. And then especially when you look down this cast, and then especially when you look at, oh my God, it's directed by the guy who did The Road, and it's directed by the guy who did Lawless, and it's directed, talk to us a little bit, for those who don't know much about this film yet, what is 999?
Well, it's a code for Officer Down, and basically, Matt Cook, who wrote it, is ex-military. He has friends that were cops that told him about this code, and that's how he came up with this idea.
Now, you work with a massive ensemble cast in this movie, like huge. The names we just read are all uber talented, but you're no stranger to working with hyper talented casts. I mean, we mentioned
I've been very lucky.
You've been very lucky. What is it like? Like, how does it differ from you? Because you've directed smaller, more independent films. You've directed these films with this incredible cast. What different approach do you need to take, or do you have any different approach than you walk onto a set with a group of unknown actors compared to walk on a set with like a perpetual current all-star list of actors?
Oh no, I take a similar approach to both.
Right.
It's whatever gets them there. You know, they have to deliver the goods, and that's a huge task, whether they're unknown or known. It's a huge, you know, responsibility. So I just try and help them get there.
I had a good question for you. Well, I don't know if it's good. You tell me. Seeing the trailer, there's so much dynamism and like the way that you actually film things, all the way back from the proposition when like you kind of introduce the starkness and you're in for a heady trip when that Aborigines head explodes. You're like, this is going to be a dark film. Like you have a lot of your films have this really heavy like real reality, you know, like the violence is real. It's not like cartoony violence. How did you approach this film? Because watching this trailer, it's so exciting and visceral and scary and dangerous. When you approached it and you had the script, what made you like those just the scenes of the freeway with the red smoke? Everything is so visceral. How do you approach that? Do you storyboard it? What goes on in your mind before you film it?
Well, you know, I wanted to make this gritty and real because I think this genre has been very unreal in recent times, and so I do a lot of research. That's a key. I wanted it like a matter-of-fact look at how the American streets are right now, you know, and so it takes research, it takes a lot of prep, a storyboard. I never you know, the storyboards are just a process of preparation. I don't have to I feel like I don't have to stick by them, you know, to be open to new possibilities, but a lot of prep, basically.
How many octopi are we looking at? Actually, I do have a question based on
callback 9.
Based on that's callback 9. Because you're talking about doing extensive research, and when you're dealing with a film that has a lot of dirty cops and has some mob ties, do you have to actually work with real-life nefarious characters in order to get that sense of authenticity? If you're talking about pulling off a heist or double-crossing somebody, are you working with some scumbags here?
All the time.
I mean, besides right now.
Working in Hollywood. No. Seriously though, yes, we work with, you know, we've worked with ex-gang members, with we had on-set, you know, gang unit guys in front of the camera, behind the camera, talk to the FBI. Which ones were scumbags? I'll leave to your imagination. But we, you know, I wanted to actually just be, you know, matter of fact and truthful about it. So I did talk to all those people.
I have an insightful and brilliant question to one of Schnepp there. No, one of the great things, but the many great things in a lot of your movies is what I have found anyway. My observation is that a lot of movies have violence for excitement. Whenever there's violence in your films, and there's been some heavy violence in your films, it always feels like it's there to further the narrative. It's there to put the audience member in a place that helps the story move along. Is that something you do by design, or is that just the way it kind of unfolds for you?
That's what I do by design. I think also that you know, I think good actors appreciate that because it's more about their character choices as opposed to, you know, them just creating something just for the fireworks.
Right.
So, you know, when they know that their character is actually triggering something and then has to deal with whatever they triggered, for an actor, that's a very juicy proposition, you know. So I think, there's I also think I like those sort of films where you're so immersed in the world, you totally buy it. And there is an unexpected chaotic element to violence that I kind of like to nurture.
Now, when we knew you were coming in, we turned to our audience. We asked our audience if they would have any questions for you. We asked them to take to Twitter and send them out. And you guys tweeted some questions to hashtag Collider999.
Stop.
So, guys, let's pull up some of those questions now.
I'm walking out.
All right, King Joker and Obi Brad Kenobi asked similar questions. Basically, what was the inspiration for 999? What was behind it? What in particular drew you to it?
Well, actually, I just really wanted to make a contemporary crime movie that was sort of updating the criminal landscape and the kind of militarization of the cops. I wanted just to update that whole world that's out there now, and do something that had a gritty kind of tense reality. You know, do action. This has more action than any of my movies, and the action, make that action feel really kind of suspenseful and unpredictable and messy.
Is it a tougher challenge to do, particularly when you're talking about action scenes? Because if you do a film like Lawless, which is a period piece, and so you have your own set of challenges there, is it easier or harder for a director to pull off making a historical drama with action in it feel real, or is it tougher to actually pull off something that is a modern-day crime story?
Interesting question. I think action, it is difficult dealing with action. I mean, I wanted more action in Lawless. It really comes down to, as you probably know, the prep and the budget. You know,
he doesn't
action
know.
takes,
Don't give him too much credit.
with the animation. You know, look, it takes a lot more preparation and takes more time. So it actually costs more to do more action as well. But it's also being smart about it, and it's I don't know quite how to answer that question.
Do you get nervous when you know it's like it's the day you wake up and you storyboarded this thing, you plotted this thing out, and you know there's going to be like an explosion in the scene, and you know it's like, guys, we only have so many chances to get this particular take right?
Yeah, that is very nerve-wracking. And actually, we had a situation where a couple of things went wrong, like cameras didn't run, and we had to get an insurance claim and go back there and do it again. And it's nerve-wracking, checking that the cameras are getting the right thing at the right time. Also, the safety is nerve-wracking. Yeah.
All right, let's go back to our Twitter questions. What's the next one up? This one comes to us from Chris Burke, who writes, I'm curious how John decides which films to make. That's a great question, because we look at your repertoire of films right now. What is it about a film that will draw you to it?
Well, I'm a big fan of genre, as you guys are. Maybe different genres. We all have our, certain genres, but I love the tradition of those big American genre films, like the crime film, the Western, even worlds like sci-fi. I like those extreme kind of worlds that put the characters under a lot of pressure, because it's under pressure that real drama sparks off, and you never know how you behave under real pressure.
Until those white hot lights of movie talk hit you. You never know how you're going to react.
We have a little experiment prepared for you guys. Shall we bring it in?
It's called The Road. You're going to be living in the world of The Road. Let's see how long you survive.
We'll
here's a push cart. Just here's a
go.
dirty cloth and a push cart. And speaking of The Road, what drew you to that film?
Well, it was actually the love story between a father and son. I have a boy, Louis Hillcoat, who's just incredible. And it's that thing of just a parent imagining the worst, your worst fears, and how to deal under pressure, really. Like, when and I think that film actually ultimately shows a positive side to humanity, where kindness is more critical than anything. Admittedly, surrounded by some pretty gnarly, but it's the contrast of that makes it so special and so moving. When I read I got the book before it was published, and it totally floored me.
Right.
Well, listen, folks, don't forget 999. Oh,
sorry.
There's
and
something else.
Also the realism, seeing the apocalypse in a realistic. I love those big genres where you can actually
you
suddenly
haven't seen that before.
go realistic.
I was going to mention Threads is the only other film that I ever saw
yeah.
but yours was as stark, but actually had a little bit more light to it. Because Threads was just like devastated. I was like, I can't leave my house, you know. Is 999 going to devastate me like that? Am I going to be just destroyed, or is it?
Now you'll want to run into those streets.
Awesome.
All right, once again, 999 opens in theaters everywhere this week. Head on over to amctheaters.com and get your tickets in advance right now. We have had in studio with us director John Hillcoat. John, thank you so much for coming in. And just before we let you go, though, do you have in mind what you're doing next after 999 yet? And can you let us in on it?
So maybe there's TV things hovering. TV and film are colliding.
Right.
Also, maybe a sci-fi.
Nice.
Maybe Western.
Oh, that would
Awesome.
be really cool.
Perhaps an underwater epic?
Wait,
with a
is this-
circus
Maybe.
animal?
I didn't want to talk about my octopus movie, but
I've got a good
I
name
have
for
done a
your-
lot of research.
I think your movie could be called Flimp.
Flimp.
Just saying.
Flimp the alien
Flimp.
octopus.
All right, folks. Hey, listen. Check out 999 this weekend. In case you haven't seen already, we've got a little trailer here for you to take a look at. Check it out right now.
Advise robbery in progress.
2.5 minutes.
3 days, unless you hear from me.
From the moment this movie starts, you're put through the ringer, you're diving deep down a very dangerous rabbit hole.
We're dealing with the crash and bash. Four-man team.
I'm a detective in major crimes investigating this robbery. First time being robbed? No fun, right?
It's just so brilliantly written, and it's incredibly cool.
Major crimes will be heading up the investigation. Belmont, fair with Chris.
Hey, sorry, can we talk about this?
Hell no.
Four-man crew. Who's that fourth guy?
Chris Allen, my role is becoming a part of this gang unit, which is full of people who are corrupt.
Your job? Out-monster the monster. And get home at the end of the night.
I was not sure you could pull it off.
We've done the job, pay the money.
There is a second job.
What do you want?
There's a tenuous nature of this group where the stakes are just impossibly high.
There's another job. She said she'd kill every last one of us. We don't get this thing.
They get dragged into a robbery that's much larger than what they've ever done.
Do you know what this is about, Michael? It is about exile or death.
Then everything kind of falls apart.
We could pull a 999.
When a cop goes down in the line of duty, they call out a 999 over the radio.
A 999 gets called in. All units in the area converge on a down officer. I don't have a problem taking out a cop. I do a cop just like it.
There's got to be a different way.
It's all complicated and messed up and violent.
It's all connected is what my character's trying to figure out.
Somebody's cleaning up after himself, and my bet is he wears a badge.
It's the emotional twists and turns of the film that really got me.
Does anyone believe maybe something very big is about to go down? The best thing is you never know who's going to get it. You never know who's the good guy and who's the bad guy.
There was something about this that was very, very pure. I'm gonna find out what you're fixing to do.
Your heart is racing through the entire thing.
It really is quite shocking. There is no limit to what desperate men will do when pushed.
999, ladies and gentlemen. The movie opens this weekend in a theater near you. Thanks so much to John Hillcoat for coming in and telling us a little bit about directing the film and about octopuses and how they're aliens that are going one day conquer us all. Well, it's time for the show that we call Mailbag, everybody. Natasha, what's our first question?
Michael Campos writes, "Hey movie talkers, for the longest time shooting back-to-back was only a good thing. It makes shooting movies cheaper with less time in between movies. But now it's different, I think, with the whole Mockingjay situation. The audience had an underwhelming reaction to Mockingjay Part 1, and with Part 2, the director couldn't do anything to course correct because they shot it back-to-back. The result was that part 2 was the weakest and lowest grossing of the series. Do you think audience reaction should be taken in before shooting a movie back to back, and will it affect Star Wars and Avengers Infinity War?
I think it really is a tough call if you're a studio and you say, look, we have this ability to shoot a back-to-back film, and you see how well it has worked in the past with something like Lord of the Rings, or even the Back to the Future 2 and 3 were shot back-to-back, right? So I understand the appreciation for the audience and their input and wanting to value that when you're considering a future project, but sometimes the practical reality of it is that even if Mockingjay could have made a little bit more money, part 2 could have done a little bit better, could have had maybe somewhat of a more receptive critical response, I don't think that sacrificing all that money and having to go back and shoot it again after being able to shoot it back to back would have made sense. I think that you did please a lot of fans with Mockingjay Part 2. I liked the movie. I didn't read the books, but I liked the movie okay. And then the ending left me a little cold, but you might have been dealing with that situation regardless of when you shot the film. So I think back to back, hopefully it works very well with the Infinity War movies. Hopefully the fan response to those whenever they come out in like 30 years is going to be good enough to where studios can say, look, if we can make more epic movies and film them back to back to give more content to the fans, I'd still be on board for it.
You know, look, there's a difference so between coming out of the gate and saying we're going to shoot these movies back to back and having an established franchise that you already know was working and then making the decision to go back to back. Now aside from the fact that they split the final book into 2 parts, which is a different debate altogether, I have no problem with the producers, with Lionsgate, making the decision to shoot those final 2 Mockingjay films back to back because the franchise was already a proven winner. So they rolled the dice. I think it was a good decision. Did it bite them in the ass a little bit? Yeah, I think it bit them in the ass a little bit, but I still think it was the right gamble to make. I think it was the right gamble for The Matrix, even though people have different opinions about the final 2 Matrix films, right? The Matrix 1 was just such a big hit, and they could make it cheaper if they did the next 2 back-to-back. I had no problem with them doing that back-to-back, and I certainly have no problem with them shooting Infinity War 1 and 2 back-to-back because this is already a proven, established franchise. It won't always work, but it's, say, a lot smarter than say, hey, we're going to make Shazam, right? We haven't done a single Shazam movie yet, but we're going to shoot 2 back-to-back. Then I'd be, maybe that's not the best decision right now. Maybe get the first one under your belt first. But I don't know, Schnepp, how do you see it?
Well, I mean, you mentioned Mockingjay 1 and 2 in the question as well. Didn't they do Twilight, like the last 2 Twilights back-to-back, as well as the last 2 Harry Potters? And I think that was kind of a trigger for the people who were making the Mockingjay series. Like, let's do those, like, to split up the book, just like the Harry Potter, and do these 2 back-to-back to save some money. I mean, I didn't, see the final part of the Mockingjay trilogies, or 4-part quadrilogy, whatever you want to call it. But I think, with Lord of the Rings, they did shoot all of it, all 3 of them. But then they had to go back and do a very large reshooting of part 2 and 3. I've heard they've reshot almost half of both of them on the reshoots. They weren't just like pickups, they were like complete reshoots where they were like, so many things changed while they were making the first one that they wanted to add to the second and third, like add characters, take characters away, move things around, that they ended up doing extensive reshoots. So I think, it's a organic process when you're making these films back to back. Even if you have all 3 scripts done, you're releasing them 1, 2, 3. If you're releasing one a year, Justice League 1, they're shooting just part 1, but Infinity Wars part 1 and 2, they're shooting back to back. I guess it's trial and error, or whatever fits best into people's schedules.
All right. Well, folks, as we do around here, we're going to save a little bit of time here at the end of the show to take your live Twitter questions, and we're going to do that right now. How can you get a question on? Simple. Tweet to us at Collider Video. Natasha's going to pick some out. So send on in those questions. Natasha, do you have any picked out already?
I do. Alex Burfield asks, if Ben Affleck directed the next Batman solo film, what storyline would you like to see him take on?
Don't care. Because, look, seriously, remember we talked a little bit about Marvel villains before. I was like, hey, Marvel villains have been a little weak, aside from Loki or whatever, and maybe the Red Skull. Maybe if they got this villain from the comic book, it'd be better. No. It doesn't matter. It does not matter which villain they take from the comics or anything like that. It matters how do the writers and the director treat that villain. What do they have that villain doing? That's what's important. They could go in and do the Killing Joke, or they could do No Man's Land, or they could do any of these Batman stories they could do. But it really doesn't matter. It depends, how will the writers and director treat that story, how will they adapt it, and what will they do with it? That's the important thing. You tell me Ben Affleck You confirm it. You have Warner Brothers. You get Kevin Fukunaga. Is that his?
Tsujihara.
Tsujihara.
Yeah.
Thank you. I was thinking of Carrie. You get him to come on the show and say, it's done. We've signed it. Ben Affleck's directing, and we're going to go to production, blah, blah, blah. I don't care what storyline you're saying because I trust that him and the writers he usually chooses to work with are going to give us something awesome regardless of what storyline they choose from the comics. I don't know, Schnepp, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, any of these storylines from the comics can be adapted into the films. I think Batman, just like Spider-Man, has a great rogues gallery that haven't been really seen too much. I mean, he's got so many, like, a lot of people want to see the Red Hood. A lot of people, like myself, I'd love to see a Penguin adaptation, but maybe not the old Tim Burton one, but like something like refreshed and new. There's always room for a new Joker. We've got a new Joker. I wouldn't mind seeing Jared Leto in there. So I think it's ripe to establish the Batman and the Ben Affleck Batman universe, so you can have a lot of villains in there and whatever storyline.
There's so much potential there, and so you almost don't want to steer it in a direction that would go too crazy. Like for me, Azrael is what popped in my head initially, and I'm like, well, you still want to make sure you have a bunch of movies that you can do with Ben Affleck as Batman, because he looks so awesome as his Batman. But I echo your guys' sentiments. Like, it doesn't matter what the story is, as long as we have a great team writing it, producing it, directing it, and of course Ben Affleck starring as Batman. Him and Alfred could be at Home Depot picking out which kind of grass to grow around Wayne Manor, and I'd be like, this is Batman. It's awesome.
I always thought that Philip Seymour Hoffman would have made a great Penguin.
Yeah, he would have. Yeah.
Like that type of Penguin you and I always used to talk about.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
Alexander Burton asks, I've read articles saying that the opening weekend prediction for Batman vs. Superman is 154 million. Is this too high or low?
Schnepp.
Low?
Yeah.
150. What world do we live in that's a movie that's 154 million opening? We're going to call that low.
Well, you know what's weird? I mean, I would have said, like, I still think it's going to kick 200 million opening weekend, but when the release, the hours is what, like 2.5 hours, that means they can't put as many showings in per theater. That affects it by about 1 or 2 films per day, I think. Just that extra 30 minutes and then time in, time out. That adds up. If you have, like, you could have shown, like, 9 films that day, now it's 7 because of just that extra half hour versus like a 90-minute superhero film where you can like chuck in like 13 screenings a day. That just bolsters your ability to get more people, especially on opening weekend when you have lines around the block. People are like, I gotta see Deadpool. You saw those pictures of people. I haven't seen lines like that since Star Wars, really. I mean, like just lines outside of the theater. So I think we're gonna get that with a film like Batman v Superman. I mean, look, we've all been talking about whether or not it's going to be good, great, or amazing, or incredible. You know, it's going to be in that ballpark. I'd be shocked and amazed. I mean, horrifyingly amazed if it was like came out with Fantastic Four numbers. Like, it's got an 11 on Rotten Tomatoes. You'd be like, that's impossible. Would that just literally be almost impossible? None of us at the table would think that. So I think with the expectations and how many people just want to see this film, that, you know, it'll easily clear 200 million.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I don't think it's easily going to clear 200 million, but I think it will get over there. I think it's like 200. I think it's right at the mark. I think it's probably going to land somewhere between Age of Ultron, which was like, what, 187, and the original Avengers, which I think was a little over 200, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
So I would say like $201 million for Batman v Superman. Then everybody can bitch about how it didn't quite get to the Avengers number.
Yeah, I'm going to go. I don't think the $154 million number is a low number. I don't, but I will peg it around 185. I think so. We're all pretty close on it. I think it's going to hit 185. And here's the thing, DC fans. If it hits 185, let's say it doesn't clear 200 million for argument's sake. Let's say it hits 185. Do not start crying and lamenting about the failure of Batman v Superman if it makes $185 million on opening weekend. Less than a handful of films in history have ever made those kinds of numbers. You got to consider that a smash success. If it does hit the 200 mark, say 210, 212, something like that, don't start crying and lamenting that, yeah, but it didn't get to Star Wars numbers. It was never going to get to Star Wars numbers, so don't even worry about that. It's going to do great. It's going to be really successful, especially opening weekend. All right, let's take 2 more.
Justin Ward asks, are there plans to feature more directors / cast to promote their upcoming movies? I like it.
I would think we'd always be open to it. I mean, now at this point now, I'm speaking for Dennis. I mean, Dennis is the one who's going to be making those decisions. Generally speaking, Dennis hates people. So, I mean, I don't know. No, I have a feeling that, yes, the plan will be to have some more filmmakers and stuff like that on the show. I think so.
I
enjoyed having John Hillcoat.
Yeah, John
in here.
Hillcoat. If you get people like John Hillcoat's incredibly intelligent, super amazing, incredibly talented directors and writers and actors, that's always fun when you have amazing talent on.
Yeah, it's great that he was like hanging out, talking like news stories with us. It was just like we're just hanging out at a bar talking about all these different news stories, and then now we'll talk about your movie. But even if it's just a chance, like when I was last week, I was lucky enough to talk to Robert Eggers, who did The Witch, and it's just great to get even a 10 or 15 minute chat with somebody who has that amount of passion for the project they created. If they really cared about the product they'd make, you would think Movie Talk would be one of the prime destinations for a director to come hang out.
Yeah. All right, last question of the day.
Last question comes from Summon Fly. Before John Campea leaves, can he tell us those other 6 movies he's given a 10 out of 10?
Oh, I'd have to look them up. Amelie got a 10 for me. Shawshank Redemption got a 10 for me. My first viewing of Borat, I actually gave Borat a 10 because I was just so floored by it. It doesn't hold up to subsequent screenings as well.
People were quoting that like all over the place, and so it kind of loses some luster.
It pushed a lot of boundaries. When you first saw it, you were like, holy shit, he's wrestling that giant.
It wasn't just what it really struck me about Borat, though, wasn't just great shock comedy. To me, the intelligence of how it held up a mirror to our culture. To see the ridiculousness of our own culture within this ridiculous spokesperson, right, at the time. But I revoked that 10 later on. Up got a 10 from me. I'll have to go back and look up which ones they were again. I'm sure a few of you guys who've been following me for a long time, you probably be able to answer that question. So I'll compile a list of which ones those were, and I'll put them on my Facebook page at some point. That'll do it for us, guys, for this installment of Collider Movie Talk. Special thanks again to director John Hillcoat. His new film, 999, opening this week. Make sure you go out and check it at a local AMC theater or any movie theater that is around you right now. I want to thank, and by the way, speaking of AMC theaters, don't forget lots of great films, not just 999 is playing at AMC right now. Head on over to www.amctheaters.com for all of your theater, showtime, and of course your movie ticket information. I want to thank the dude sitting at the table with me. First of all, sitting over here on my left, planning out his worldwide comedy domination tour, Mr. Mark Ellis. Mark, where can people find you online?
Well, you say worldwide. I'm going to say Delaware and Pennsylvania is where I'll be this weekend. I'm doing a couple theaters there with my buddy John Caparulo. I will tweet out the exact times, locations at Mark Ellis Live. You can also find my new Facebook page, Mark Ellis Live. Go ahead, give it a like. It's not going to bite you.
Sitting over here, the Black Panther directing, Superman, Mr. Jon Schnepp. Schnepp, where can people find you online?
You can find me and Flimp over at Jon Schnepp on Instagram and Twitter. And you can check out the film The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened, by going to tdoslwh.com. Next week, I'm launching my new Kickstarter, Sweaties Unite. Look for it on Kickstarter.
Woohoo. And, of course, our lovely host today, Natasha Martinez. Natasha, where can people find you?
You guys can find me on Instagram at Natasha A. Martinez and on Twitter at NatashaLexis_.
And, of course, you can follow me on Facebook and on Twitter, simply at John Campea. And, of course, my new novel, The Pride, is available for pre-order right now on Amazon. Just go over to Amazon, look for The Pride, John Campea, and you'll be able to find it. That'll do it for us, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is John Campea for Collider Video, and until next time, bye-bye.
Hey, guys, if you like this video, click the thumbs up button. Also, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. It'll help you stay up to date with everything we've got going on here at Collider.